On today's Apple Daily, we know when the event's going to be, and it's sooner than we thought. In today's show, we break down what all of the big tech blogs that I care about are saying about Apple Silicon and what is coming at the November event. So, we are talking Cult of Mac, Apple Insider, 9to5Mac, MacRumors, iMore, and Bloomberg. We'll break down what each of these outlets has to say about what's coming at next week's event. Then we've got a question from Sean in iCave Answers, and a big old Notification Squad update. Let's get into it.
This is the Apple Daily.
I'm David for Living on an iPad, and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. And if you want the latest Apple news, leaks, rumours, and breakdowns of other people's news, every weekday at 12 UTC, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so that you can join the Notification Squad like all the guys at the end of this video. So yesterday we did a massive video on what I think we might see at the Apple event. Some of it has changed just purely due to what everyone else is saying, but I still think that the products that we've talked about are stuff that will come, whether they come at that event or not. But there is a consensus starting to form, not very well, but there is starting to be something. So starting off with Cult of Mac, which is, to be honest, the one that I go to the most often because I really enjoy their podcast. The Cultcast is epic. They're reporting that Ming-Chi Kuo is expecting a 13.3-inch MacBook, with a less reliable source saying a 12-inch MacBook at $849. Now that's potentially true, we don't know. Ming-Chi Kuo is just saying MacBook, he's not saying whether it's a Pro or an Air or anything else like that. They also refer to the Apple event AR Easter egg, which looks like a MacBook Clamshell opening, and then say whatever the form factor, it could run the A14T, which we all thought was going to be reserved for the iMac. Also, they're expecting AirTags at the event. Now, the A14T thing, not really sure as far as I was aware, and based on the stuff that I was reading, that looks like it's reserved for the iMacs and stuff like that, for the higher powered desktops. But who knows, maybe this is just some crossed wires. Moving on to Apple Insider, they are reporting a 12-inch MacBook with an A14X at 1 kilogram, or Ming-Chi Kuo's 13.3-inch form factor MacBook Air, followed by a 14 and a 16-inch MacBook Pro next year. They're also saying Big Sur, AirTags. I think Big Sur is pretty much a given. AirTags, which we're pretty confident is coming, although one more thing in the thing. Maybe they're only doing one thing. Who knows? And then they get into maybes, where they're thrown in AirPods Studio, maybe AirPods X based on Beats X, but why would they? Because we've already got that, it's just a white pair. And then AirPods Pro Lite, let's just throw everything we can at the wall, just in case something comes through and then we were right. And Apple TV 6, I don't think Apple TV version 6 is probably going to be coming at this event, although we have talked in the past about the Mac Mini going into an Apple TV-like form factor, and if people have been talking about an Apple TV with an A14X chip in it, that makes me think maybe people are confused and this is actually a Mac Mini and the A12X version is the TV version. Don't know. Just to hedge their bets a little bit more, Apple Insider also has a separate article where they report on Bloomberg's article, which we'll come to at the end, which is talking about 3 MacBooks. They also have yet another article where they talk about Apple working on a half-size Mac Pro, and this has come up in a couple of articles now, that the half-size Mac Pro would be the Apple Silicon version, very similar looking design, but in a smaller form factor, which I think would be a pretty sweet little deal, assuming that it's a reasonable price and still is expandable in certain ways. They also say that Apple could introduce a 24-inch iMac next year, but that the GPUs aren't ready yet for the higher-end desktop processors. 9to5Mac is reporting that Apple might bring test flight to Mac next week. I like this article, that makes a lot of sense. And reports again on Bloomberg's 3 MacBook lineup, and then in a separate article predicts a 13-inch MacBook Pro and MacBook Air based on a tweet from Love to Dream, which says 13-inch X2. MacRumors is reporting that the Mini Mac Pro, not a Mac Mini Pro, is in the works, and also talking about Bloomberg's list of 3 MacBooks Air 13, Pro 13 and Pro 16. iMore still thinks 12-inch MacBook and 13-inch MacBook Pro are the most likely, plus AirTags, but it also weirdly seems to think that AirPower is still going to come at some point. Guys, AirPower's dead, sorry. I know you were waiting for it. AirPower is dead, that's why we've got MagSafe now. And on to Bloomberg, which seems to be the one with the most credibility at this point, because everyone else is just reporting what Bloomberg is saying. Mark Gurman listing the devices as MacBook Air 13-inch, MacBook Pro 13-inch and MacBook Pro 16-inch, but with detail about who's manufacturing them. So Foxconn assembling the 2 smaller models and Quanta Computer Inc. Building the 16-inch model. This seems to be the most solid of the rumours, but they also mention later in the article that at least 2 of these will be shown at next week's event. No design changes significantly beyond the processor. Now that means they could update camera sensors, they could update certain little things, but the form factor in general is going to stay. What do you think? I personally think that Apple TV rumour of the A14X in an Apple TV, that just sounds insane unless they're really pushing into the console war type stuff and they really want to go and fight up against like Xbox and PlayStation. I don't think they'd be fighting against the current generation that's just being announced, but maybe the previous gen stuff. But it makes far more sense that they're just using the smaller form factor of the Apple TV and putting a Mac Mini in there. That would make all the sense in the world to me. I'm still not sure if it will come at this event. I think it should. And I still think all the stuff that I've been saying about the Mac Mini is pretty much, I don't necessarily think we'll see it at this one, but it would be a great form factor. And if Apple can get the price point down to that $499, then that makes a lot of sense, whether it's at this event or the next one. We have an iCave Answers question from Sean. Do you think the potential Face ID on Apple Silicon Macs will entail better quality built-in webcam? Hashtag iCave Answers. And that's how you can get your question answered too. So, Face ID on Macs bringing better cameras. Yes, and also not in everything. So, the difficulty with Macs, and this was actually answered in the comments, I think, by some of the other members, could have been Sander, not 100% sure, but the problem with MacBooks especially is that the top cases are so thin, there's very little space to actually put a good camera in there, because you need depth to put in a camera, you need to actually have some depth to it. Because Apple makes their notebook chassis so thin, especially on the top case, there's just very little depth to actually get anything into it. So the ways that Apple could improve their camera units is A, in the iMacs, because they can go as deep as they want in those things. They don't need to be thin in the same way that they've been in the past. This thing is like 5mm at the edge, which is still nearly as thick as an iPad, but the iPads have way better cameras. They have 7-megapixel shooters in the front on the Pros and I think the Air, just like the iPhones do. There is a way to do it in the iMacs. There might not be a way to do it in the MacBooks unless you put it lower down, like underneath the screen, which then gives you a really weird angle. I know some of the phone makers out there have been putting in periscope cameras where you kind of put all the guts pointing up through the phone and then you have a mirror at the top that brings it out. That might be an option potentially, but again, you haven't got that much thickness to play with. So unless they drastically change the form factor of the laptops, they're not going to improve that much. However, when you do put in things like the Face ID sensors into something like an iMac, you've got that true depth. So you could potentially have really good background removal. So if people are working from home or doing Zoom meetings and stuff and they don't want their backgrounds included, I know Zoom and stuff has got some technology built in to blur your background, but the iMac could also use basically portrait mode with the extra grunt that it's got in an iMac form factor to blur out your background or do like a green screen effect that's really quite compelling, or you could use it generally as a green screen kind of thing because it can separate you because of your depth from the background. If you want a question answered, as we've just done there, include the hashtag iCaveAnswers in your comment and I will do my best to answer it on the show. There's a couple that are in there that I need to do more research on, so they will be coming. If you've already asked a question with hashtag iCaveAnswers, don't worry, I will get to it, but there was one that was really complicated about servers that I need to do a lot more research before I can answer it in a decent, reasonable way for you. Notification Squad updates. It's a big one today because we had such a successful video yesterday. Loads of you guys were loving it and there were so many comments. Thank you all so much for interacting. If you're watching this and you haven't joined the Notification Squad or you think you have and I haven't shouted you out, let me know in the comments again and I will make sure that you get your shout out. But for now, the new members are Lee Carter, Fabian Lenge, Dennis W, Sierra Rios, Raging Rogue Bull, Shantu Shubham, Mohammed Benbrika, James Richard, Law Hall, and John Brosson. I think that's everyone that I saw in there, but if you joined and I didn't give you a shout out, please let me know again in the comments because I'm doing my best. There was a lot of comments coming in yesterday. Thank you so much. Hope you've enjoyed this show. There's going to be new stuff coming out all week, so hold on to your hats. Planning to do our rebrand later this week, so look out for the announcement of that. And also, I'm super active on Twitter. Find me at Living on iPad, so if you want to come and chat during the day, that's where I'll be. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.